Well, this morning, when the decision came out here at the Supreme Court, Justice Sonia Sotomayor made the unusual decision to deliver her scorching dissent to the decision in person from the bench. That's something that justices only do when they profoundly disagree with what's happened. She said the devastating impact of this decision cannot be overstated. And that impact's already been seen in 9 states in the US, where already they have banned this affirmative action, and they have all seen a drop in the number of black students in their universities. Well, the concern also is that this could see employers also rethink the way they hire employees. President Biden made an impassioned speech just an hour or so ago at the White House saying he strongly disagreed with this, and it was a severe disappointment, reiterating 3 times for emphasis that discrimination still exists in America.
But we cannot let the decision be a permanent setback for the country. We need to remember that the promise of America is big enough for everyone to succeed. You know, that's the work of my administration, and I'm always going to fight for that.
He also decried the Supreme Court, saying that in making this decision, they once again overturned decades of precedent, just as they did last year when they ended a woman's right to an abortion, when they overturned Roe v. Wade, which had been law for nearly 50 years in the US. And he was asked, as he was leaving that press statement, just what he thought about the work of this Supreme Court.
Is this a rogue court?
This is not a normal court.
The president has promised this is not his last word on the matter, urging universities to still be committed to diversity. Former President Donald Trump, his biggest rival for the presidential race next year, has said that this is a great day for America.
Kate, thanks very much. Well, I'm joined now by Professor Justin Hansford from the Thurgood Marshall Civil Rights Department at Howard University's Law School in Washington. Professor, just your thoughts, first of all, on what this actually means today.
Yes, well, thanks for having me. We had expected this decision for quite some while. The ground was tilled with some of the attacks on teaching about race in schools, also based on this idea that we should strive to be a society that ignores race, even when race is a major factor in American life. And so this decision today seeks to eliminate race as a possible ability for people to use as part of the admissions process, and does do so while whenever people have legacy admissions, if their parents went to school, if they have a family member who is an employee of that school, they can still get a leg up. So that does not mean that our admissions are totally merit-based now. It just means that race is one factor that will not allow to be considered, and it's going to have a major impact across society.
And what do you think that major impact will be?
Well, we know that our universities will be more white, less diverse. We know that this will also impact our professions. The legal profession is under 7% African American, medical profession, engineers. So college is, of course, the gateway to those professional certifications. So those professions will also be less diverse, and they already weren't very diverse to begin with. If you listen to those numbers, you can tell that. So possibly we could see an increase in support for historically Black colleges and universities to fill that gap, but that has not happened thus far, and it remains to be seen.
I mean, it was interesting because this was actually brought by an Asian American group representing those students, which had claimed that affirmative action was discriminating against them. And they argued that this decision today reintroduces, if you like, meritocracy.
Yes, the architect of this campaign is Ed Bloom, who's an activist who has railed against affirmative action for many decades. The instrument of using Asian Americans as plaintiffs was an innovation that has happened relatively recently. But there was debate within the Asian American community about this issue, and I would hesitate to say that this was something that was driven by the Asian American community, more so driven by particular activists with a political agenda.
Of course, the decision itself was taken by the Supreme Court justices. I wonder what you make of the fact that obviously Clarence Thomas is one of them, who himself benefited from affirmative action.
You know, that is the perhaps the most compelling narrative arc. We know that Clarence Thomas has, for many years, argued that his failure to acquire the employment that he sought after graduating from Yale Law School was because employers felt that his degree was less valuable because he benefited from affirmative action in obtaining that degree. As opposed to blaming the employer's racism, he blamed affirmative action and has spent most of his life, frankly, waiting for this moment to dismantle it. So that is certainly part of the narrative arc. Of course, that ignores the widespread societal impact that is articulated by Justice Jackson in dissent and Sotomayor and so many of us across the country today.
Very briefly, if you would, sir, we've had the Supreme Court ruling also rolling back on abortion rights. What do you think this trajectory could mean for civil rights in America?
It's definitely a setback, and we've seen major decisions. Most importantly, I would say, thinking about the decision you mentioned, the Dobbs decision, and of course, you could also add decision rolling back voting rights, which happened 10 years ago. The Shelby County decision, we see an overturning of longstanding precedent. And when the society itself comes to a major agreement on a important societal program, and then 9 unelected individuals who are Supreme Court justices decide to reverse that, it's a problem for the society.
Professor, very sorry, going to have to end it there. Thank you so much for talking to us. Thank you.